And welcome everyone today to our presentation or to our discussion. Honored to have Ilyasa Shabazz-Davis here with us with Philanthropy Together. I will go ahead and share my screen or attempt to share my screen. So there we go. Stop to. Hopefully that works. Yes, okay. So you're here with the American Muslim Community Foundation. Today we're with the Power of Giving Circles, a panel discussion with Philanthropy Together. Just a brief agenda is welcome, an intro to AMCF and the Women's Giving Circle, speaker information, upcoming events, presentation, and a huge thank you for attending today. A little bit about the American Muslim Community Foundation, or AMCF. Our vision is leading sustainable and strategic Muslim philanthropy for today and future generations. Our mission is cultivating donor giving and diversifying funding to advance charitable causes. Our core values are sacred, strategic, sustainable, collaborative, diverse, inclusive, and with integrity. We were founded in 2016, and we are the only U.S. organization dedicated to American Muslim philanthropy. In the past 9 years, we have distributed $25 million to over 1,000 nonprofits. Just this Ramadan in 2025, over $2 million was distributed. Currently, we manage about $8 million in assets, including 240 donor advised funds and 30 endowments. Our impact, 240 DAFs, 30 endowments, $25 million in funding, and assets, $8 million. Our core programs are for donors and nonprofits, with donor advised funds, giving circles, endowments, and leadership development. We're leadership in action with leadership communities serving the entire community, the National Muslim Plan Giving Council, Investment Committee, the National Muslim Endowment Council, as well as the AFP Muslim Affinity Group, which we moderate. We do also have a nonprofit resource center. If you haven't checked it out, I encourage you to do so. Our team members have curated a great collection of resources for nonprofits at every stage of development and even pre-development. So please use the link, reach out for more information. And then the Muslim Women's Giving Circle, which I'm a part. Our purpose is to harness the power of American Muslim women through collective giving, combine and democratize our giving, amplify women-focused nonprofits, support Muslim women in leadership, and provide seamless donations to organizations chosen by our members. How it works is very simple. You join as a member with a donation of just $5 a month or more. You become a voting member with a donation of $35 a month or $420 a year. And then you nominate. Each member has the ability to nominate one eligible organization for funding, with the preference going for organizations led by or serving American Muslim women. And then at the end of each cycle, our voting members determine the finalists and the top 3 organizations that will be funded in that cycle. And then what do we do? Well, a little over $55,000 has been collectively raised and distributed to 9 nonprofits in 4 years. And our 2020 cycle just opened. Our last cycle for 2025 just closed. And those winners will be announced at the AMCF Muslim Philanthropy Awards in the end of the month. Our grantees last year were the Muslim Legal Fund of America. They received $7,500, Olive Community Services, $4,500, and the Pillars of Peace, $3,000. So honored for them to be our nominees and our grantees. Over the past 3 cycles, we had 18 amazing nominees, 13 of which earned their gold or silver candidate seal of transparency, increasing their legitimacy and awareness in the greater community. We have 5 finalists. And to learn more about all of our amazing nominees, please reach out, use the webpage, scan the QR code. We also do education and networking, monthly free webinars like this one. We also do in-person events, primarily in SoCal, where I live, and my other colleague, Shazeen Mufti, also resides. We do networking, mentorship, and we also have a WhatsApp community for our members. And our resources include a weekly curated newsletter, as well as one-on-one consults with our nominees or anybody else in the community that wants to reach out for information. Some of our upcoming programs. As I mentioned, November 22nd will be the big reveal for the winners, the recipients of funding for the 2025 Women's Giving Circle. Also, the awardees for nominations from 14 categories of philanthropic leaders, schools, mosques from across the United States. We also have speakers, Anwar Khan, one of our board members, and the CEO of Muslim Aid USA, and Manny Kalawi, co-founder of LaunchGood. Saturday, November 22nd, we encourage you to register. There's a QR code in the link. We'll be discussing the power of us, defining the future of Muslim giving. December 10th, we'll be having our next monthly webinar, Beyond the One-Time Gift, Smart Tools for Strategic Philanthropy, including the basics of DAFs and endowments. Our guest speaker will be Muhi Khwaja, our co-founder and CDO of AMCF. Encourage you to tune in for that. December 17th, we are moderating AFP, or the Association of Fundraising Professionals, their Muslim affinity group. You do not have to be an AFP member to participate. We will be discussing Ramadan fundraising prep, as Ramadan is coming up quickly this year in February. So just ideas and suggestions. We'll also be having, they'll be sharing with us coupons for joining memberships. So encourage you to attend. You don't have to be a member. Anybody in development, marketing, fundraising, highly encourage you to attend and share our discussion. And then again, join us. The 2026 Women's Giving Circle Cycle is now open. You can join today on Grapevine. During this month, we do have a $500 donation match. I encourage you to join. Each one of us, our voices amplify, and we encourage to have all of you join us as we uplift and amplify the amazing work being done in the community. Myself, I'm Lisa Kaler, the Giving Circle Manager at AMCF. It's my honor to be with you here today. A little bit about my background. And then we'll go to Ilyasa Shabazz-Davis, Senior Operations and Communications Director at Philanthropy Together. She is part of the team leading a global effort to grow and strengthen the collective giving movement. Since 2020, she has helped design the systems, stories, and strategies that power giving and collective giving groups around the world. Based in Greensboro, North Carolina, Ilyasa has championed grassroots organizations for more than a decade and the everyday people who make community change possible. So happy that she's joining with us today. We also have Dima Abu Olem, the founder and president of 200 Muslim Women Who Care. She is also a founding member of the 100 Women Who Care South Shore, a former founding board member of Water Smart Tots, and currently serves as president of the Superintendent's Advisory Council for the Education of Students with Disabilities. She is deeply connected to the Giving Circle movement and has collaborated with Philanthropy Together on national research and has been featured in the storytelling series to inspire collective philanthropy. Her leadership has also been recognized by the international organization Darkness to Light, where she helped 200 Muslim Women Who Care become the first Muslim organization in the country to be designated a partner in prevention. So again, our honor to have her with us. She's also part of our Giving Circle, so huge yay. And then we also have Mediha Patel, a Leadership Circle member. She provides grants writing services and communication strategies to community-based nonprofits. She earned her MA in Writing, Rhetoric, and Technical Communication from James Madison University, her BA in International Studies and Religious Studies from Towson University, and is currently a PhD student in Technical Communication and Rhetoric at Texas Tech University. Her diverse academic and professional experiences in peace-building efforts, human rights, and community building are key to her work in supporting nonprofits serving marginalized and underrepresented communities. So again, a huge honor to have all three talented women with us today on this presentation. So without any further ado, I'm discussing the power of giving circles with Ilyasa Shabazz-Davis. And a huge thank you to all our panelists. And I will stop sharing and we can start the discussion.
Lisa, thank you so much for that introduction, and just thank you for bringing us all together to have this conversation on collective giving and giving circles. And so I am going to be sharing my screen, and while I am getting that up, would like to kind of just share more about like all of the connections. So, Philanthropy Together is a nonprofit initiative to grow and strengthen practices of collective giving globally. And we started in 2020 really from a number of Giving Circle networks that came together after research that was done in 2016. And one of those groups was American Muslim Community Foundation. And so Muhi was in the room with leaders from around the US, and together they brainstormed, and that is how Philanthropy Together came to be for us to serve this movement. And we have quickly grown to being a global one. So since 2020, we have supported the collective giving movement through training, storytelling, advocacy, research, and convenings. You may have heard of We Give Summit, which is an annual celebration of collective giving that Philanthropy Together host in partnership with networks and giving circles like AMCF to bring people together who are in collective giving groups and also those who are interested in being part of this movement. So, one thing that we believe at Philanthropy Together is that anyone and everyone can be a philanthropist. And so, returning us to the root meaning of the word philanthropy, which is love of humankind. And so, by being here today in this Zoom room with us, you're giving your time to learn more about how you can show up for your community. And so, you are a philanthropist, and together we have this collective power to make change happen. And so, as we're having this conversation, I definitely want to invite you to write in the chat, share questions, come off mute. We're just in this space together. So like, let's make it a conversation. And I definitely want to invite anyone to be asking questions or chiming in. And so, all in all, Philanthropy Together, we're all about collective giving. And this is people-powered philanthropy. One thing that we love to lift up is that collective giving is not new and it is not American. Collective giving is ancient. It's a generations old tradition that is practiced in cultures all around the world. You may have heard of susus in West Africa or tandas in Mexico. These groups have been practicing collective giving for as long as humanity. And so with collective giving, giving circles is just one expression of collective giving. Um, and in modern times, we may refer to collective giving groups as collaborative funds or investment circles, political giving circles, giving projects, Giving Tuesday campaigns. All in all, collective giving is looking at groups of people who are coming together, pooling their resources, and deciding where to make a gift. And so in 2022, our CEO, Sara Lomelin, delivered a TED Talk called Your Invitation to Disrupt Philanthropy. And definitely, I'm dropping the link in the chat. Want to encourage folks to check out that talk. It's all about giving circles. And one of the lines that I love from that talk is, in a giving circle, it's not about me or you, it's about us together. And really, that's what the power of giving circles is. That's what we're talking about today, is our power when we come together. And so, what is a giving circle? This is a definition from our friends at Amplifier. And if you scan the QR code, that will take you to a website that shares what a giving circle is. It is literally whatisagivingcircle.com. And I'm also going to drop that link in the chat. And so, a giving circle takes your mind, talents, and financial abilities seriously and makes giving a collaborative and social experience. Giving circles are creating caring, generous communities of people who are acting intentionally, thoughtfully, and strategically together. That's a word we're going to say a lot today, together. And so there are 5 key steps in a giving circle. So the first is gathering. So you bring folks together around shared value, shared interest, and build community. Next, you discuss a common vision and engage in discourse and learning. Then you decide together where to give your money, time, and talent. Then you pool your funds together or your time. We talk a lot about the 5 T's of philanthropy, which is giving your time, talent, treasure, testimony, ties. Here at this fourth step is when you give. And then last but not least, you engage beyond your gift for amplified impact. And so the end result is multiplied impact. So it's not just that, you gave a one-time gift, but now you and your group are thinking about how are we spreading the word about this organization now that we have given? Are we going to do a volunteer project and now give our time beyond just the dollars that we gave? Are we going to put them on a national stage and nominate them for an award, like at AMCF symposium, so that is what this fifth and final stage is for a giving circle. And so this work is crucial because it's bringing new voices into philanthropy. There are huge gaps in funding for people of color, women, and LGBTQ plus causes. And these are just 3 stats that we highlight. The first, only 8% of philanthropic dollars is going to communities of color. Only 2% is going to women and girls causes, which is up. We can say that this number has increased due to all of the pushes and the work of our collective giving groups like 200 Muslim Women Who Care and the American Muslim Women's Giving Circle giving to these women and girls causes. And then last but not least, 0.28% is going to LGBTQ plus causes. And so if we change who gives, how we give, then ultimately we can shift these numbers and we can change what is getting funded. So in 2024, Philanthropy Together partnered with the Johnson Center for Philanthropy and Colmena Consulting. And also we heard from giving circle leaders from across the US, including Dima, who shared their testimony as a part of this report. And this looked at an analysis of the landscape of collective giving in the United States between 2017 and 2023. If you scan this QR code, it will take you to the report. And I'll also drop that link in the chat. But there were 5 key findings that came up in this report. The first, that collective giving is democratizing and diversifying philanthropy. So what that means is that more people are participating in philanthropy and more representative voices are participating in philanthropy as well as a result of collective giving groups coming together. Another key finding is that collective giving deeply impacts members themselves. Folks are seeing personal benefits by joining a collective giving group. A third finding, collective giving greatly expands what gets funded. That's what we were just talking about how we're seeing these shifts and where dollars are going. Fourth, collective giving is pushing the bounds of how philanthropy is practiced. And then fifth, collective giving is a catalyst for social cohesion and change. And so digging in a little bit deeper on these findings, when we talk about collective giving to being democratizing and diversifying philanthropy, we see here collective giving is shifting the narrative around who is considered a philanthropist. And so in the last 4 years, there has been a 50% increase of Black, Indigenous, and people of color who are represented in collective giving groups. So really, again, pushing on who is a philanthropist and what this means for the organizations that we're giving to. And what this quote says is just that, a lot of these groups are feeling seen by their own community. And that's what is a result of more representative people participating in these collective giving groups. Another finding, collective giving groups give to community-based organizations. These are grassroots nonprofits, another way of saying community-based organization. And so we're seeing that collective giving groups are really practicing these principles of powerful philanthropy. They are ensuring that nonprofit missions that they're supporting align with their personal values and their areas of interest, that there is support for groups and nonprofits that are led by underrepresented communities and that are serving these underrepresented communities. It's really philanthropy by and for philanthropy. And so looking to serve communities from which the members are drawn, and also looking at budget sizes, supporting smaller organizations is a priority for many collective giving groups, more than half. And then the last finding that we'll look at is collective giving improves members' health, wealth, wellness, and agency. And what this finding really said is that collective giving is good for your health. So 55% of members report that collective giving positively impacted their ability to live a healthy life, physically, spiritually, and mentally. And that 83% of members said that their participation increased their confidence when taking action to change their community. And so we are going to look more at collective giving, but I want you to hear from some collective giving group members. And so I'm just resharing my screen again as we tee up a video.
Collective giving is ancient,
transformative,
powerful,
fun because I get to do really dope things with my friends.
Collective giving is an experience.
Collective giving is a model in philanthropy where many voices come together around a shared table for shared decision making.
Collective giving is important because it's the way forward in order to do the things that we need to do, arm in arm with our neighbors, colleagues, friends.
Collective giving is truly the future of philanthropy.
Money is a river that flows in and out of our lives, and all of us have an opportunity to be a steward of that river. In philanthropy, resources haven't been flowing to the grassroots communities that need it the most. Philanthropy has put up barriers and dams, deciding who gets resources and who doesn't.
Unrestricted funding is like the goal level of funding for a nonprofit organization. It's important because it allows for ingenuity, it allows for creativity and innovation.
When you run a program, anything can happen. And when you're doing this work, it is extremely hard to do that if your funds are restricted. I was so thankful that Go Girl Giving gave us that money to just do it and use it as freely as we needed, because that showed trust.
Giving circles and collective giving steps in and removes some of those dams to make sure that the river of resources flows to the communities that need it most.
Giving circles are, no surprise here, the fastest growing form of philanthropy with thousands of groups around the world.
I see the amazing roles that giving circles play in serving as scouts to grassroots organizations, in really elevating the visibility and amplifying the impact that these organizations and community leaders at the front of every social issue that you can imagine.
I think being a woman-led, a BIPOC-led organization, and also we're a lot smaller, than these other bigger, more established organizations, it's harder for us to find funding that helps us build our sustainability over time.
Giving circles are ready to bet big on leaders. And I've seen time and time again nonprofits that were seeded by Giving Circle members and are now thriving.
There are always things that are going to be challenges for our organization. There's always going to be barriers, and so not only just the funding support from Impact 100 was helpful, it's opened additional doors in that we have access to a lot more people. A lot more people know who we are and the work that we do. We've connected to people around real estate and looking for a new building. And getting people's ideas on what that could look like for a nonprofit. And so it's been able to connect us to additional resources that we probably wouldn't have been able to connect to on our own.
You never realize the wonderful work that's being done to improve your local neighborhoods until you hear the stories from local nonprofit leaders. And it's so inspirational for our women to not just stop at the financial giving piece. It goes beyond that. We have had so many organizations that have come spoken to our membership, and then all of a sudden our members turn around and become longtime volunteers for them.
Giving circles and philanthropy can best support organizations like mine by continuing to put in their research and their work on organizations that are small and more grassroots. We're the ones who really do need the funding, and this kind of funding is so hard to come by.
Many of our nonprofits count on their giving circle members, that community that can come in and say, we got you, tell us what's happening, let's organize. And that's really powerful because those giving circle members are practicing their civic skills, their duty as citizens to care for themselves, each other, for their neighbor. And then those nonprofits tap into that community. I think that's part of the way that we rebuild our democracy.
So I just always, love hearing from our collective giving group leaders and from our nonprofit leaders who are sharing about the impact that this work has on their ability to, to be able to serve their communities. And this is what it is all about. Collective giving is important because it is an invitation for everyday people like you and me to come into spaces where we can make decisions on where dollars go and then see the impact of our dollars multiplied by the power of our group. And so collective giving really is building momentum here in the US and around the world. And this is about us supporting our grassroots organizations, about us building community, challenging the status quo, acting as a first funder. That's something they talked about in the video, and also shifting power in our communities. And so I am super excited for us to get into this conversation and hear from Dima and Mediha. And so to kick us off, would love to invite Dima for you first to tell us about 200 Muslim Women Who Care. How did it begin? What inspired you to start your giving circle?
Thank you for the introduction, and thank you so much for the great work that Philanthropy Together does. I just love hearing the power of the collective giving movement. Obviously, I believe in it, and you guys break it down so beautifully in terms of why it's so important to work together and build community together. So originally, I came into the Giving Circle concept about 6 years, well, not 6 years ago, actually, it's a long time before that. I was part of a Giving Circle concept for 6 years, part of the 100 Women Who Care. It was such a beautiful, easy, simple process. It was very informal. You take $100 and you multiply the impact by that of the group. And at the time I had 4 young kids. It was easy to participate. You would just go hear from regular everyday neighbors, come and pitch about an organization that was close to their heart. But over time, I realized, okay, you know what? There was one particular instance where a gentleman was nominated, and he had a sincere intention to help the community, but his approach was a little bit different outside of my personal values as a Muslim. He wanted to pick up homeless men and go buy them a beer and a cigar and take them to a baseball game, which again, that may have been very impactful for some of those people, but for me, it was a little bit out of line with my personal values. But I made a commitment. I signed a commitment. I continued to contribute. But I realized I still wanted a little bit more of a checks and balances approach. So I had always wanted to encourage my Muslim sisters to be part of something so simple and so impactful as a giving circle. But I lived on a different side of town than the majority of them. So I was like, well, I have to bring it to them in order for it to work, for them to be close by. And so it was back around 2017 where I was like, okay, there was a lot of rhetoric happening in the political space about Muslim women, or not Muslim women in general, Muslims in general. And I was like, well, that's not Muslims. You know, Muslims are philanthropic, they're very charitable, they're giving. They just kind of need direction and some sort of guidance on how to do it. So I decided to ask one of my close friends, Farah Mody Khan, to join me in creating this organization, 200 Muslims Who Care, and have a dual purpose where we supported local nonprofits and we also amplified the work that our Muslim community was doing so that people could get to know us, and then we can act on our responsibility as Muslim women to care for our neighbors. That was really the biggest disconnect, whereas our Muslim community members were giving, but it wasn't impactful because it was isolated. But when we collectively work together, we can uphold our Islamic values and really support our neighbors, because that's what we're responsible for doing. And we knew that our Muslim nonprofits struggled to be able to receive grants from outside groups. You know, it was similar. That's why collective giving movement is so important, because you guys, the way that giving circles work is that you can help the smaller organizations succeed. The bigger guys usually take bigger pieces of those foundation grants and all the money that's out there, whereas the smaller groups have a tendency to not be able to get served. So it was a perfect, you know, timing, and that 2017 was a perfect push. That's what I needed. And so we started 200 Muslim Who Care, and here we are today. Now we're actually finishing up our 8th year. We're 8 years old, finishing up our 9th year of operation. And now we have a second chapter in Dallas.
Awesome. Yes. And, you know, Dima, that talking about like the funding gaps that giving circles can fill, especially for our smaller nonprofits, that is such a huge thing, because we talk about giving circles serving as like the first seed funder, and what that means is then these smaller nonprofits are then able to go to a larger organization or someone else and say, hey, look, like this group believed in me, we were able to achieve this, and leverage that to earn more dollars. So I would love to hear, Mediha, about your journey in collective giving and what brought you to the American Muslim Community Foundation and the Giving Circle.
Absolutely. So, as I was shared about me, that I've been in the philanthropy space for a while, but more specifically proposal writing and grant writing for about 6 years now. And it's always been in traditional philanthropy. And, you know, as bright-eyed as I was going into it, somewhere along, I realized this process is very much rigged. And, you know, so Giving Circle just popped up while I was grant seeking for one of the organizations I write for. And an opportunity from a Giving Circle was brought to my attention, and I got into researching it. And it reminded me, to your point, Ilyasa, earlier, that it's always existed, right? Like I remember my grandparents doing it, having some formulated, I didn't know the term for it. So when I saw that, I learned more about it. We applied, and through the application process, I just saw how localized it was. It brought people together, right, in a way where they truly are making the decision, given the proximity. So localized, it was local, it was the proximity was much closer to the issues and the people that are getting the funding support. And I loved it, and I was always, you know, to me, I was like, oh, it'd be fantastic for a group to exist that was Muslim driven, or Muslim driven, and or Muslim women driven. And marketing is great for AMCF. So one day I was just scrolling through my Instagram, and I came across AMCF, and then went into another research rabbit hole and found the Muslim Giving Circle. I think it was destiny, because I was seeking it, and it came at the time that was most appropriate. And yeah, that's what I reached out to Lisa and Shazine, and I said, hey, can I join this? Like, what's the process? And I joined them in 2024. And yeah, that's sort of what my journey was. And I'm very grateful to be part of this group.
Thank you, Mediha. And As someone who has, just come into your giving circle in the past year, but been in philanthropy for a while, I'd love to know from your perspective in philanthropy, what opportunities do you see that exist to expand collective giving in Muslim communities?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's, it's sharing the power of collective giving, especially when, for instance, how I have known uh, giving or is through very traditional modes, right? So that's you either give it to your local charity or your local mosque, and they kind of, it trickles down. It's like a top-down approach. What collective giving will allow is that there might be not shared priorities, right? So we have shared values, but there might not be shared priorities. And that's where collective giving in the form of giving circles can um, uh, provide that opportunity where if there's a particular issue that I am concerned with and others are concerned with, we can come together and give towards that, right? Build community around that and give towards that. And or we can also make it city specific, right? So if I'm in the Central California area and there are other like-minded folks who would like to give towards a particular issue, we can come together and do it in that way. It could be regional specific. It could be identity based as well, right? It's, for example, Muslim, American Muslim women. So I think there's lots of opportunities that are there in how we can really expand and replicate the giving circles.
Awesome. And I think this is a great chance for us to hear from Dima, because as a local giving circle that has also been replicated, would love for you to talk about kind of the impacts that you have seen with your model and it being replicated, and then also any challenges that you saw along the way.
Yeah, so actually, I want to kind of piggyback off of something that Medy had mentioned, which was that we can prioritize a need that's in the community. Like, we don't have kind of that restriction set upon us where you have to wait like a year before something actually gets funded, or you have to pay something back in order to be able to get the money. You have to, put up your own money, those type of situations, those barriers to funding that you come across with like bigger organizations, whether it's government grants or foundations. We can address a need in the community so quickly with a giving circle. And I'll give you an example of that, of something that we did with our child sexual abuse prevention trainings that we've done through an organization called Darkness to Light. So in conversation with, we have an organization in Tampa called the Children's Board of Hillsborough County. And this is a government agency that can distribute each year over $35 million of our taxpayer dollars to other child serving organizations. So other nonprofits, and other entities. And having conversation with that, I wanted to, with the directors of the Children's Board, I asked them, I said, hey, what do you guys do as a best practice to prevent child sexual abuse? And they told me, they said, oh, we do background screenings. And then for me, as we are a designated partner in prevention, right away, my light bulb went off my head. I'm like, well, if they knew, I explained to them that 80% of predators actually have no criminal history. So background screenings is not enough. You need to have better policies and practices in place in order to protect kids. So when they learned that, thank goodness, they're very open to learning. The leadership there, they were wonderful. They were like, oh my gosh, we need to have better policies. What do you guys do? So I explained to them about training that their staff can take. But again, there's that barrier to funding. So they, as a government agency, they have to put it in their budget. They have to wait for like a year process. They have to get it approved by the county. Like, there's all these problems that would, every day that goes by is an opportunity for a child to get abused. So we right away said, okay, we'll pay for it. We'll make sure that you guys get this training. You can implement it right away. We organized the training for them. We had 65 members of their staff and leadership trained. And what is amazing is now they can take the impact of our group is they implement that as a required policy for other organizations that they fund to have best practices in place. And so on a yearly basis, they serve, I'm getting my numbers confused, so don't quote me on the numbers, but something over 60 organizations of our taxpayer dollars that they fund. Now they require better practices and policies in place to protect children. And so this is the impact of giving circle groups, is that they can act quickly when they see a need in the community. Not only that, is that we know our local community because we live in it, right? Like we are connected to our neighbors. We're not coming from an outside agency in another state waiting for funding that doesn't know us. We can directly impact our friends and our colleagues and our community on a different level. So I think in that regard, that was very impactful for the work that we do. And I know you asked a second question in terms of what have been our challenges. In the very early stages, in 2017, technology, I mean, our social media was definitely picking up. It's not the scale that it is today, but before we had a website, the issue was like, it sounded like a scam, like where I had to cold call nonprofits and say, hey, would you like to be considered for a $10,000 grant? They'd be like, who are you? 200 what? Like they just didn't understand. And that's when I realized, it's like, wow, our community doesn't really know the Muslim women, they don't really know us. And we need to be able to work together because we're neighbors. We live with each other, and we have to be able to build a wonderful community for all of us to live in. It's that shared existence, that coexistence that we really need to amplify in the world. And so that was kind of the challenge. But now that we have 8 years of a track record, they can see our website, they can see our history. But I still find that it's very interesting that local nonprofits will come and it's the first time they've ever interacted with Muslim women. And then it's always kind of interesting to see that, we all don't look alike. We may not all wear hijab, or we may, there is a lot of people who do wear hijab, or everybody comes in a different shade or speaks a different language. And that's always kind of exciting to see that they're surprised when they step into our space.
Mhm. Yes. And Dima, I want to say, I always love when you share the story about the Children's Board of Hillsborough County. And when we talk about impact multiplied, like that is just such a beautiful illustration of that, where you all put the dollars in, but also you gave across your 5 T's. You all gave your time, you all gave your talent and your testimony advocating for this. And so that just like you said, that truly is the power of giving circles. So something that I would love to ask both of you is this question around what makes collective giving a powerful way to reimagine traditional philanthropy?
Mediha, you want to take it first, or
Sure. Well, definitely the turnaround time, right? As Dima mentioned, that like you're not having to wait like 6 to 8 months or up to a year at times, right? Like there are grants that it's 1.5 years later and still in some hurdle of like, can we have this document before we finally give you our, we make our decision. So the turnaround time is much more quicker, and the proximity again to those who are receiving, right? You can be in discussion with them, you know what's going on with them. You can tap into the evolving needs for them. So I think, collective giving, that model of collective giving can truly help with some of those hurdles that individuals are facing. Yeah, that's what I have immediately. Dima,
yeah, I feel like I just really always appreciate the ability that we have to help the smaller groups. And so how that, like, I'll give you a perfect example. There is an organization we've supported on a local level. It's called Mr. Bubble's Mobile Showers. Their group is so unique. If they were tried to apply to any other grant, they wouldn't get it because they're not necessarily a structured nonprofit. But if you know them and if you're here in this community, you know their work. And that's the cool part of giving circles and on the local level is that we can see their work firsthand. We can go volunteer with them. They provide mobile showers for the homeless. I mean, they go around each week, a couple, depending on the funding, and they'll take it to certain areas where there's a large unhoused population, and they give them the respect and the dignity of taking a shower. And on paper, that work is not apparent, but in real life, we can see that and we know they're legitimate and we can help them. And in our process of a giving circle, you know, we have policies, we have requirements because we want to see these organizations succeed. And I understand that and for bigger funders, they want to see the sustainability piece for local communities. I mean, for organizations. But for us, we want to know, did that money get spent and did it help somebody immediately? And that's, I think, the difference between our gift and a larger funder's gift is that we know it went to somebody in need, it got used right away, and that we're okay with that. We want that organization to succeed, but even if they close down a year from now, we know the money went to the right place and it helped somebody. So for us, we have a different, I don't want to say response, we just have a different approach to how we feel that money should be used. We just know that it went to help somebody, and that's what we care about the most. You know, again, our hope is that they succeed and they continue, but as long as it's benefited immediately, that's how we take that approach.
And Dima, hearing you makes me, think back to that idea, the proximity again, right? Like you mentioned that they don't have a website, the organization or the group doesn't have the bandwidth or the budget, right, to come up with this creative, wonderful website that is updated with all the work that they're doing. So in terms of when you're close to the grassroots organization, you can see exactly that the work is going on. So then exactly where the money is going, right? Like reiterating that. And to your second point, it's the designing. It's like a justly designed process that that works for your space, for your region, for your local, context. So I think that's what this collective giving model allows for. So designing it best that fulfills the needs of your local community or communities, as well as being very much aware of the realities and the lived experience of the groups that are on the ground doing the work, right? Providing the direct services.
Yes. And I think what both of you are hitting on, and I appreciate you lifting this up, Mediha, around that, like the giving circle model really is customizable to you and your group. And there's no like right or wrong way to design a giving circle. It just has to feel true to you and true to your community at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So
perfect.
My last question to close us out to both of you is looking ahead, what are your hopes for the future of collective giving, particularly within Muslim communities?
I would love to see a 200 Muslim Women Who Care chapter in every city across the country. I think it's really time as the newest immigrant community. And I don't want to say the newest. I know we've been along since the founding of this country as Muslims, but collectively organized is a little different. I know we are the first Muslim women's giving circle in North America, so that's if we're considered the first, we have a long way to go, and we'd really love to get our sisters around the country civically engaged, helping their neighbors in need and having a bigger impact than we have in past years. Houston next. We have our eyes. We'll see. But our next hope is DC area. But we have not ruled out Houston. You never know. We got to find the right leader. So if you're interested, let me see.
Yeah. So my response is very similar to Dima's. Is like I want it scaled up. I want to see multiple giving circles for local cities, again, regionally speaking, the West, the East, and for different issues as well, because there are certain issues that are so dear to certain individuals versus others. I mean, really to diversify in the way what the circles look like. And it's possible. It's very much possible. So I'm hopeful. And Dima, I might be reaching out to you like, hey, can we, I would love to learn how we can bring replicate those models, across the country.
And I am a part of the National Giving Circle as well. And I do believe in the work that they do because, there's still shared collaboration. We don't help national causes. And this is important on, like you said, I mean, we have to start local, but think globally. And the National Giving Circle concept is super, super important as well, because we all have a shared responsibility for our communities.
100%.
Yes. So I think that is a great segue to close us out. Let's close with some invitations. So I will pass it to you, Mediha, to share about the American Muslim Women's Giving Circle. And then Dima, any invitations that you have from 200 Muslim Women Who Care. So Mediha, I'll pass it to you.
Absolutely. So I am a member of the Muslim Women Giving Circle as well. And I'm very grateful to be part of this amazing group where we come together and provide funding grants to community members, to our grassroots organizations across the country that are led by Muslim women, are predominantly serving the Muslim women in some capacity. And the way to join the Giving Circle is that you share at least, that you donate at least $5 per month to the circle. That gives you a spot to vote and for when the cycle arrives. And then currently we have a $500 donation match that is happening. And we would like you to join us.
Awesome.
Great. As for my organization, 200 Muslim Women Who Care, if there is an interest in somebody starting their own local chapter, we're considering various areas, and we'd love to know if you want it. It is a volunteer-led role, so you have to be committed to the community in order to serve, but the whole point is we want to make it easy and seamless for you as possible. And help you on the national side. So we're hoping to build capacity. That's why the American Muslim Community Foundation is so important to us. We actually have an endowment with the American Muslim Community Foundation because we hope to build our capacity so that it's an easy process for somebody in another city to not worry about the headache of managing the rules and the regulations and the process behind the scenes with taxes and accounting and all the pieces that go into managing a nonprofit, whereas the people on the ground can just easily do the meetings quarterly to help raise the money and to give back to the community. So if you want to get in touch with us, we have our website, which is 200mwwc.org. I'll put it in the chat probably, and I'll share my email if anybody is, or maybe I should, interested. I didn't think about this part.
All good. Well, thanks for putting that in the chat. Thank you both for those invitations. And just thank you both for being in discussion today and sharing about your experiences. Always a pleasure for us to have an opportunity to have these conversations. So thank you, Dima. Thank you, Mediha. And also, Lisa, thank you again for bringing us together. And something that I want to lift up and just give the American Muslim Community Foundation a shout out on is something that Dima talked about earlier around, there can be nonprofits in our communities who haven't had interactions with Muslim philanthropists. And I think something that AMCF is doing so great is the storytelling and doing the work of telling the stories of Muslim philanthropy. So just thank you all for building this community, for hosting spaces like this one and like the symposium, your podcast, like all of the spaces that you hold. Just thank you so much. And Philanthropy Together is just so thankful to be a partner to you. So thank you.
One, thank you to all of you. And I know we do have a couple minutes in case anybody on the call would like to unmute or put a question in the chat. We have amazing talent right here, all sorts of information on giving circles, and just a small nod for the AMCF Women's Giving Circle. You know, people don't realize it, but we are actually, AMCF is actually here to serve American Muslims. So if you can donate with $5, that's great. If you can't, we still want everybody to succeed, because that's part of it. Is just if we all learn about the organizations such as Dima, there's so many great things that Muslims are doing in this country, and we just don't know about them. So just by amplifying and sharing, go on our website, learn about some of our needs, learn about, some of the nominees that Dima, the 200 Muslim Women Care are funding. These are great organizations that perhaps you could bring to your community or share with other individuals, that these organizations, they exist, they're doing great stuff, and just really hoping to share and amplify the work that we're doing, so that when we meet with people in different communities, they're not asking what and why. They're like, oh, I have a friend that was served by a Muslim organization. Like, wouldn't that be cool? So
Absolutely. And thank you, AMCF, for, even pushing us to apply for, getting best practices on Candid and all of the webinars that you guys host. It's really very helpful, and it's needed because, we look to you guys as our little shining star to keep us in the right direction. So thank you.
well, thank you. And that's just part of our purpose at, national level, is to provide capacity for organizations around the country so that we grow together, right? As we grow, we don't want just one section of the Ummah to be growing, we want everybody to grow. So if we are holding hands and growing together, everybody benefits, both Muslims and non-Muslims, like the whole world will benefit. So.
Absolutely. Yes. So, Lisa, there's a question in the chat about examples of inviting someone to dinner or community picnics that bloomed into giving circles. And I think this is, I want to address this because I think that's how a lot of giving circles that we have heard started, where there were groups of people who were gathering and having conversations about what's happening in their community, and they didn't even realize what they were doing was a giving circle. And so our Sada Lomaline, who shares that TED Talk, like her first giving circle started in Dallas, probably, I believe, in like 2010, 2011, but they didn't even know that is what it was called. They were just gathering for dinner. And so that is one example. There's also a giving circle. They call themselves the Dinner Guys, and they're a group of friends who go to dinner. I believe that they do it quarterly, and or they were going to dinner quarterly, but then they transferred it to where they would get together, someone would cook, and the money they would have spent out is then donated to an organization. So there are other many examples. We do have a directory of giving circles that we invite you to browse and see different ways that giving circles have taken shape. And so I just dropped a link to that directory in the chat.
Well, thank you so much, Ilyasa. Any final comments, words of advice? I'll also put my email in the chat if anybody wants to learn more about what AMCF is doing, what the Women's Giving Circle is doing, or want connections to any of our wonderful nominees. I'm happy to make virtual connections and introductions because, again, our nominees, and Dima of 200 Muslim Women Care is one of our nominees, actually one of our finalists this year. So we're honored by the great work that our community and our nominees and grantees are doing, and happy to connect.
Thank you. Oh, yay, Ellen, so glad you joined us for Launchpad. So yes, Launchpad is a training to start a giving circle. So if there's any interest in launching a new giving circle, join our training.
Well, it looks like I will be closing out. So thank you again, everybody. It was a pleasure being with you. It is being recorded, and we'll be sharing it out. So thank you so much. Everybody have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.